It's a privilege for us to welcome Sister Angeles here from the Franciscan Sisters of St. Joseph, and also Sister Joyce. For me, especially because this is the community, the religious community that passed on the tradition of palm weaving to me when I was back in the 4th grade, as Sister will well remind you here, and all of us. And Sister Angeles here is the community's expert in creating the crown of thorns in a very, very, very most beautiful and expressive and delicate and artistic manner. I couldn't even attempt to start something like that, even though I do try to do the crowns of thorns every year. So that is why we're happy to have Sister Angeles here, both to represent the Franciscan Sisters of St. Joseph from Hamburg, and to also pass on to future generations this most stunning celebration of Palm Sunday. So welcome again. Sister Joyce here was reminiscing a little bit earlier about some of the origins or connections between palms and the Franciscan Sisters.
When Father Chrissa first met Sister Angeles, she told him the story of St. Clare of Assisi when she was a young girl in church on Palm Sunday, and when everyone was receiving their palm from the bishop. For some reason, she didn't go up to receive the palm. Instead, the bishop came toward her and handed it to her, a sign maybe of her future vocation as a Franciscan, following Francis in his call. And also our mother, Colette Hilbert, when she first came to the United States, to Pittsburgh, she arrived on the feast of Palm Sunday. Oh. So that's quite special for us. And then, of course, over the years, we have learned the bashki making and the crown of thorns from our older sisters, who already have reached their eternal reward and are watching us carry on this tradition, which we hope to have others carry on in our name.
And that's exactly one of the reasons we're fortunate to be able to videotape Sister Angeles at work, something that she's been doing for over 70 years of her life, 70 years of Palm Sundays. So it's great to have you here and to witness this creative action of participation in Christ's Holy Week, His Passion, Death, and Resurrection. I don't know if I mentioned it, but Sister Angeles was featured in the local Buffalo paper in the 1960s for doing a very intricate cross from palms. And that's kind of a neat connection, that this has been so much for probably your whole life in the convent, a part of your Holy Week celebration.
Well, I'm in the convent 71 years.
Where did you learn how to do the palms?
Probably in novitiate.
In novitiate. Sister Angeles is kind of like is the expert in her order when it comes to making crowns of thorn, which are the most challenging, difficult, and needs a lot of artistic energy and good dexterity and fingers that know what they're doing and eyes and everything all coordinated. It's a very complex practice, but not impossible. And one of Sister Angeles' touches here on the crown of thorns is she weaves here, as Sister is doing, a red ribbon into the crown of thorns, which is an extra hard step because you have to keep everything together, not just the symmetrical leaves that Sister prepared here. And the red again is the color of Palm Sunday, remembering his precious blood, and also who we receive at the Eucharist. So that red has a particular place within the Church's celebration, especially on Palm Sunday.
And on Palm Sunday, our sisters get together after breakfast. We have all the palms in the community room, and sisters come and do what they can. They watch Sister Angeles, and some of them are learning. They're trying to learn. And we just enjoy our time together and have some of our Easter music playing while we're working on the palms. I can remember as a young sister at the Mother House seeing the palms outside in the snow. One of the sisters put the palms outside so that they would be kind of pliable when she would work with it.
A little fresher, right? Keeping them fresh.
And really, it was really fun watching what they do. And I'm sorry that I'm not really carrying it on. Maybe in a way I am, just by being here and attempting every Palm Sunday to do some of those bashkis. And then we pass them on to our family. Sometimes our sisters will get the palms before Palm Sunday and make some of these and send it to their families and give it to each other as a gift, or to parishioners if they're in a parish. And that's really where I learned how to do this when I was at Holy Trinity Parish in Niagara Falls. Sister Claire Ann and I would do all of these bashki, not the crown of thorns. We didn't know how to do it. And just like Father Chris has quite a few of these palms that he uses for Palm Sunday, we would do that for the priest. And he was just a young fellow when he would see us doing all these things.
4th grade. I remember that one particular year where the Monday after Palm Sunday, the leftover palms, as they were called, were brought all to 4th grade. And we spent the whole afternoon as an art class weaving palms. And that's basically the one time I really remembered actually appropriating the tradition myself. That whole afternoon, we didn't study any geography, which we usually had in the afternoon, or anything. We made the palms, and that was how we celebrated Holy Week.
And how interesting, a couple years ago when Father Chris had the festival and invited us to come, and I see this woman next to our table doing the bashki. She introduces herself. She was my 1st grader, Cindy. And she's showing me how to start it because I forgot how to start it. So that was really exciting to see one of my former students
reteaching. I remember the whole high altar. The high altar was something like two or 2.5 stories high at the same Church of Holy Trinity, my home parish. And it had 3 steps on it. Well, the sisters each and every year made full bouquets of these bashki, or what I call wheat and grapes, and there was an entire floral bouquet, 6 of them, 3 on one side of the altar, 3 on the other, all made out of one palm fan,
Yes.
and then some flowers in between. I have never seen anything like that since. And one of your sisters even said once upon a time that she made a whole arch in her parish. So I think it was Chicopee or one of those churches out in Massachusetts. She made an entire arch of the, what I am calling grapes, and the wheat for everyone to process through on Palm Sunday.
I don't even know where we got the idea of taking a palm and fanning it out on the attic floor and putting something heavy on bricks or something so that it would dry up that way. I think it was Sister Clement, because she was just so artistic.
Yeah, I use heavy books, and you have to learn how to spread it out there. And then almost each and every one, or every other palm leaf was woven into some symbol, usually the grapes and wheat. That was stunning. Unfortunately, well, one time I actually copied that tradition when I was in the seminary and did it for a smaller church, but only 2, not 6. The pastor was so stunned, he asked everybody to exit through the sacristy. He wanted everybody to see up close the intricacies of the decorations on the altar, which, remember, then the priest had said Mass facing the altar, so he had something really to look at during Mass. It was very, very inspiring. And then the priest's palm always had a white lily, the pastor's palm, I should say. And that was also decorated with these symbolic weaves. And that was something like everybody looked at the pastor's palm during the procession, and how everybody else made their, like you said, the sisters do on Palm Sunday in the afternoon for themselves. Well, we took our palms home and then worked on them.
Some of those displays had red carnations in them.
Exactly. Right. That's what I use today. Red carnations in the priest's palm and on the altars. So.
And I can remember when I was still at home, some people would be leaving church and would take their palm, and they would take 2 little pieces and put it on their lapel in the sign of a cross.
Oh, okay. a little, I don't know if you never noticed, but in the back of the church where the ushers stood, at Holy Trinity again, because the Mass on Palm Sunday is always longer, they took their palms and they were weaving crosses and everything. So you'd leave church and they'd give out to their friends these crosses that they had made during Mass.
Well, Cindy, she said she was in church on Palm Sunday, and she started doing that, and her children were saying, Mom, not now, you don't do that in church, but she was starting to do it right
That's
there
part of the
during the
tradition.
homily.
You listen, but your fingers are working. You know? There's a different form of participation, where a manual form, we call it today, fancy words, kinesthetic learning, but you learn by doing. And that actually grounds the faith experience because you're using your hands.
Look at that. Amazing.
A little bit challenging these times because these palms are not exactly what Sister or all of us are used to. But Sister was able to adapt them very beautifully. And again, the red color, reminiscent of Jesus' blood, the liturgical or church color for Palm Sunday.
I've seen them made with a violet color too, or
like
purple.
Lent. A Lenten color, the 40 days before Easter.
And it turns out so perfectly, every loop.
With Sister Angelus's hands, though. I practice that and try to work on it once a year. Before Palm Sunday, they come out nothing like that. Not as delicate, not as even, not as really, really artistic. Now, this last touch here distinguishes the crown of thorns as a crown of thorns, the thorns themselves, from just a regular weave or braid. And they are exquisitely, most delicately presented here in Sister Angelus's work here. That's why we're so happy that you're with us here today. Myself particularly, because this is the sisters, the Franciscans, who followed their Sister Clare and their foundress, Mother Colette, through a number of Palm Sundays. Well, 71 at least, Sister Angelus, right?
Right.
Oftentimes our sisters will take the crown of thorns, and it's smaller, and put it on the crucifix in their room. And maybe the Bashis, they would do that too.
I heard some family members would even take a smaller one, put it in their car or something like that at one time, because you would send some to your family members by the mail.
Our sister Mary Frances did quite a few things with palms. She'd make a little ladder going up to the cross, and I don't know how she did that. Just
Up close there you can see how delicate work this is and how fine. I'm just mystified at how thin they are and how still sturdy they are. You know?
But you know, when tomorrow they're going to be thin like that.
Right, exactly. The two green ones here are done with fresh palms. In other words, palms that just arrived within the last week. And this is a dried palm. This palm is actually about 10 or 12 years old. And you see it has its shape. It hasn't crumbled, because they don't. They're actually quite sturdy. And here we have an example of Sister Angelus's work, the Crown of Thorns, and with the red ribbon inside as a sign of our participation in Christ's Holy Week, particularly on Palm Sunday when we remember his entrance into Jerusalem. Well, thank you very much for spending the time with us and passing this on to future generations, and to show the connection between how at one particular time when sisters were more abundant, and priests too, and the school was the bridge between the home and the church, and a lot of these traditions were shared back and forth. And so I appreciate the Franciscan sisters here, both Sister Joyce and Sister Angelus, for being here with us and sharing this on to a much wider audience than just in Western New York, or even Baltimore, Sister. God bless you.